If you just found this podcast and you are thinking, maybe I want to actually dive into male Seiyuu music more so than just listening to the podcast, and you are asking where should I start, this is going to be your episode, because we are going to talk about the must-listen artists that I feel are a great introduction for you to get into male Seiyuu music and eventually into 2D music, and who knows, even something completely different. So let's start this episode of Seiyuu Lounge. Welcome to Seiyuu Lounge. I am your host Vanessa, and in this episode let's talk about the must-listen artists if you're trying to get into male Seiyuu music. This is an unscripted episode, so I will be all over the place. I'm just following a post-it that I have in my hand with the names of the artists that I want to recommend you. Other than that, what I'm going to say is not rehearsed, not written in any place. I may have said some of those things when I was reviewing the music by these specific artists. So, if you are just getting into male Seiyuu music and you don't know where to start because there's a ton to check, there are people saying completely different things all the time, that some artists are really good, that others are not really good, and that some are too complex for you, or maybe some are too generic for you, or something like that. So, in this episode, I will try to bring you a wide variety of styles in terms of the music genres, the singing style, and even the way that each artist approaches music. So you will have from the really complex ones, which are more philosophical than anything, to others that have more approachable lyrics and a more approachable sound, to others that have a good balance between both, and even new artists that may be of your liking. I'm going to bring you a couple of artists that I feel deserve your attention, and I hope this episode is actually useful in some way. If you know about someone that needs some recommendations and you feel that, for example, what I'm saying is actually valuable, please share this episode with them so that they can actually listen to these recommendations instead of spending time searching on the web and asking around and getting scattered ideas. So I'm trying to condense everything, taking into account that people may like completely different music genres or different music styles or even voice tones. So I'm going to bring a little bit of everything here. So let's start this episode. So let's start with the easy listening Seiyuu artists that I feel will be the best ones for you to get into, especially at the start, and then you can build up from that. And especially if you are a fan of pop music, you will enjoy them quite a lot. So there is a name that you cannot ignore. It is Mamoru Miyano. If you are a fan of pop music, you are going to love his music. That's for sure. He has been doing plenty of pop music since the start. He has a really long career, so be aware of that. You will need to, if you get into his music, you have a ton of music to check, which is exciting, but a bit overwhelming at first. So pace yourself when you are listening to his music, although I know if you are like me and get incredibly excited, you are going to listen to everything in the same day. But pace yourself. Mamoru Miyano has tons of music for you to check. His music is really fun. He's a really interesting tenor. He can actually sing a bit lower than most tenors that I'm going to introduce you to in this list. But usually you'll find him with really beautiful high notes at times. You will find him with some falsetto. He loves to do those flourishes, those things coming from R&B. The riffing is amazing when it comes to that. He had tons of influences of R&B when he started. Things shifted a little bit around 2014, 2016, let's say, when he went the really trendy way and his music almost sounded like K-pop. But then he returned to his roots and the R&B sound is back in some capacity, but he's also mixing that with synthwave, which is really exciting, as well as some jazz that shows his maturity. He also has plenty of ballads in case you like a good tearjerker or a song that will bring your emotions to the maximum. He does deliver ballads in a really beautiful way. He's one of the best singers among male Seiyuu when it comes to performing ballads. A couple of years ago, he performed in a TV show alongside Jejong. He's a really famous K-pop singer, and he also has a career in Japan, singing in Japanese. He's amazing, really, considered one of the best singers ever because of his unique tenor voice. But Mamoru Miyano was actually not too shabby, and he was singing even better than Jaejong in that performance. So Mamoru Miyano is amazing when it comes to ballads. He's amazing overall, but when it comes to ballads, I feel that he is on a league of his own, I would say. His music is really fun, upbeat, uplifting. You will find yourself smiling all the time when you listen to his music, which is really positive. I feel that if you are trying to get into male Seiyuu music, Mamoru Miyano is the best way to start. Firstly, because most of his music, especially early on, was featured in anime series. He still features from time to time some of his music in anime series, so it will become familiar, especially if you are watching anime. You will come across sometimes in which he is performing the opening theme or the ending theme to an anime series. So it is much easier to get into him and his music because of that. He is more approachable in that sense. So if you like pop music, if you want to have a massive smile on your face when you are listening to music, if you like dancing along to really fancy EDM and pop stuff, it's Mamoru Miyano that you should check. But have into account, he has been maturing over time, and the sound that he had at the beginning is not necessarily what he has right now, and as of late his CDs sound more mature than ever, so have that into account if you don't like when the artist goes a bit more jazz, R&B, or even synthwave, which are more mature music genres that he can bring to the table. Also, the way that he's singing right now is completely different from the start, which is really good because he was already a really good singer. He right away impressed everyone when he debuted because he had an angel's voice. But over time, he has improved so much to the point that he's by far one of the best singers among male Seiyuu, and without question, really. So if you are into pop music, you want to have a massive smile on your face, Mamoru Miyano is actually the artist that you have basically to start with. He was my gateway into male Seiyuu music, so I'm saying this as a really good example of right now I have a podcast about male Seiyuu. I write about male Seiyuu since 2010. He was the very first Seiyuu artist that I listened to music from. So he was my gateway to male Seiyuu music. When I say this, that he is amazing as a starting point, I'm talking about my example, and I build up from there. Although I'm not a massive fan of Mamoru Miyano, I listen to everything, but there are some CDs, for example, that I don't like at all. I would say it was the reason why right now you are listening to this episode of the podcast. Is the reason why I started writing about male Seiyuu music, alongside, of course, to the groups that I found around that time as well. So this is a really awesome entry for you. If you just listen to Mamoru Miyano and think, now I need more pop and I need it to have an extra layer, an extra oomph that will leave me in tears, will leave me completely wrecked at times. Yuma Uchida has that ability in his voice. He carries a ton of emotion. There are very few singers among male Seiyuu who carry as much emotion as he does in his performances. It's ridiculous how amazing he is as a singer. He easily entered my top 3 list, or let's say top 4 list of favorite singers among male Seiyuu by far. And my list is quite complex because I have Soma Saito in the list, I have Makoto Furukawa in the list, I have Toshiki Toyonaga, and I have Yuma Uchida. Those are my 4 favorite singers among male Seiyuu by far. Yuma Uchida right away entered my list and I didn't need to think twice. And I'm not even a fan of pop music. So for him, a pop artist, being the only pop artist actually in my list of favorite singers among male Seiyuu already says a lot. But yeah, he has an amazing talent. If you listen to him singing, you will notice that he has a vocal range that is impressive. It is wide as hell. And he actually has a beautiful tenor voice. When he goes really high, you will get goosebumps all over. It is crazy. There are songs in Equal, there are songs in the Horizon, really, that are crazy when it comes to making you feel emotions that you didn't even know you had them, or making you feel things that you didn't go through, but you will find yourself crying to those things that he is actually singing about. He is an amazing singer when it comes to reading the lyrics and understanding the emotions in those, then conveying those in the way that he performs. I feel he's one of the best singers among male Seiyuu when it comes to understanding the feelings behind the lyrics, especially because he doesn't write his own lyrics. So he has to understand the feelings that someone else put into words and then he needs to interpret those when he's performing. Whereas other singers, for example, Soma Saito, for example, Toshiki Toyonaga, they write their own lyrics, so when they are performing, it's much easier to actually convey the emotions because they were the ones writing those. They know exactly which emotions they want to convey. So in this case, Yuma Uchida has to do that double work of having to understand what was written and what are the emotions being conveyed there and how they want the emotions to be delivered. And he really delivers every single emotion in a really impressive way that will let you basically feel goosebumps all over your body. If you like R&B pop, EDM, dance music, even some rock at times, because Yuma Uchida can rock, and I'm not kidding, it's not that play pretend rock just to sound edgy, it's really, really good rock music. You have that in his repertoire, which is impressive. He's quite versatile when it comes to music genres. Of course, if you come to Yuma Uchida's music, you will mainly expect pop and R&B. But don't be surprised when rock music appears. Don't be surprised when acoustic pop rock appears. And as well when some jazz and even EDM music appears. Because Yuma Uchida can do it all. He can play the guitar, he can dance on stage, he can sing, can actually play the piano. And he has been writing some lyrics, but not everything in his repertoire. I would say 99% of his repertoire is music written for him, and 1% is music that he has written for him. So it's a bit different in here in terms of that balance. If you come from Mamoru Miyano and then you go to Yuma Uchida, you won't be shocked because they sound almost similar at times when it comes to the sound. So this will be a really welcoming segue that you go from Mamoru Miyano to Yuma Uchida. I feel it makes sense, and seeing as they both are sort of R&B pop artists in the way that they perform, I feel that you will feel familiar or be comfortable when you are listening to their music coming from Mamoru Miyano. If you don't come from Mamoru Miyano following this list and you just arrived and you just started listening to Yuma Uchida right off the bat, you are also going to enjoy his music a whole lot. He's one of the best singers of his generation by far. I'm not even going to kid. This is by far one of the best singers among male Seiyuu and one of the best in his generation, which is a packed generation with tons of talent, let me tell you. So yeah, I would recommend Yuma Uchida as your next pick. And because we are still in pop music and we will wrap up this episode in a pop style, and we will have the other names that I want to talk about in the next episode, so do not worry. This is going to be a double parter or a triple parter depending on how much I talk about each Seiyuu. But the other Seiyuu that I want to talk about in this episode is Shouta Aoi. And one thing you may be thinking, especially if you are a fan of male Seiyuu and you are aware of that, is that Mamoru Miyano, Yuma Uchida and Shouta Aoi are all from the same music label. So they are all from King Records. They all perform pop music with some R&B influences, although Shouta will be a bit more disruptive for you, especially if you come from R&B pop, which is more, I would say, warmer, more sexy, more caring, because when you arrive at Shouta Aoi's music, you won't be getting much of that. Not to say that he doesn't have those moments in his music, he does, but he likes to play around with the status quo, and he likes to keep you guessing. He likes to play around with his musical identity, and this is amazing because I feel that we don't have this type of representation and this type of ballsiness to actually go out there and just play around with being quite androgynous, both as a singer and as well as his looks, and he is confident as hell, and I love that for him. He's amazing when it comes to that. He doesn't spare anything nor anyone, and he doesn't even care about what people say. Although he does mention that he knows what people say about him and it still hurts a little bit, he still delivers music which is amazing, and even from time to time delivers a reply to those people that complain about his music and that are always judging him. He's all about EDM pop. So this is a massive change already coming from Yuma Uchida and Mamoru Miyano, because his music is made for the dance floor, and you will understand that right away. He has a more bubbly side of the pop spectrum in his music, so you will find tons of synthesizers being the core to his music, which may throw you off a little bit if you are not a big fan of EDM music. Some melodies you will instantly recognize because Elements Garden has been working with Shouta Aoi since the start, and Elements Garden are really predictable when it comes to the melodies that they use. Usually they have 2 or 3 main melodies on the synthesizer that they reuse over and over again. They just change the octaves sometimes to actually match the song that they are performing. So you will understand that signature Elements Garden sound in his music if you pay attention to that. So to put it simply, you will find his music really interesting, made for the dance floor. He has an amazing voice. He's one of the highest tenors among male Seiyuu by far. His range is angelic, crystal clear, especially in the highest side of his vocal range. He's a tenor. He can go really high. There are various instances in which in his music he belts a ton of notes, and you will be with your jaw dropped in awe because you may be thinking, no, this range is impossible a man to reach that high, and he goes higher and higher, and he never fails. One thing that I love about Shouta Aoi is that he sings as well in recording as in a live performance. He can belt when he's dancing. This is insane. Shouta Aoi is a machine when it comes to belting high notes, singing on stage, and delivering heart-wrenching performances from time to time. I would say, and this is something that I have been vocal about Shouta Aoi for a while, is that whenever you see a song mentioning it has lyrics by Shouta Aoi, you know it's going to be a banger, but not necessarily because you are going to the dance floor. It is because you are going to grab a tissue box and you are going to cry a lot. He writes from his heart, and it hurts a lot. And I'm saying this as someone that is not in his head, because we are not in his head, but you can feel those emotions in your skin, in your body. It is crazy how it touches you on such a deep level with his performances. He is one of the best singers as well, alongside Yuma Uchida, when it comes to conveying emotions. And while most of his repertoire is not filled with those deep emotions, it's more music to have fun, to put a smile on your face, to dance, to enjoy yourself. But whenever he gets serious, his music makes a ton of damage. And you will understand that when you come across songs like I Am. You will notice how powerful he can be just with the way he sings. And then if you pay close attention to the lyrics, you will be completely wrecked. Shouta Aoi is one of the most unique singers among male Seiyuu. You will notice when you check photos of him or watch his music videos, he's really unique visuals wise, which is amazing. He's the only Seiyuu artist that actually dares do something like this. So he's already in a league of his own when it comes to the visuals. Then when it comes to the music, he likes to play around with the song sounds a bit bubbly, but the visuals on the music video don't match that bubbliness. He likes to keep you guessing, and I like that a whole lot. While he doesn't write most of what he is performing, he actually knows what he's doing, and he knows exactly what he wants to convey. Dalala, which was released almost a year ago, that song by itself was a direct reply to the haters. He knows what people are saying about him, about his music, about his visuals, about everything. And he delivered a song in which he looks really bubbly, cute and sweet. But the song is not bubbly, cute and sweet. It's actually condescending. It has a condescending tone, a really rough edge about it. And it's really aggressive at times. So you are watching the video and you think, wow, this looks really bubbly and really cozy, and then the lyrics don't match. Then his attitude doesn't match. And you will be thinking, what the hell am I listening? Which is amazing. He breaks rules. He makes you basically what you are expecting from pop music. He really twists it around some of the times. And when he does, it is amazing. So yeah, you need to actually check his album Collage because it is amazing. It was one of the best albums in 2024, and it is a good reason for you to understand that he's an amazing singer, extremely versatile because the album starts with rock music and wraps up with EDM, and you will understand just how many layers there is to Shouta Aoi's music. There's a ton of layers, and while he may seem just like a bubbly EDM pop artist, there's a ton of stuff that you need to discover. And I would really welcome you to check his music because it is worth your time, really. worth your time. So yeah, that's my third suggestion, but I feel that these were the best entry point Seiyuu artists that you need to check, because their sound is really accessible and most people start listening to male Seiyuu from pop music and not necessarily from rock or hip-hop or any other music genre. So I feel this was actually pretty good or solid suggestion for you to start. So let's go to the outro. So those were really interesting suggestions that I brought you to this episode. I feel that most of you will be thinking, but Vanessa, I already know about them. But let me tell you, sometimes people find this podcast and they may actually come across an episode and may be thinking, well, while she is talking about male Seiyuu artists and maybe I find the topic interesting, they may have never listened to male Seiyuu music. So I thought it was a good idea to actually bring that topic here and to create a sort of a list of introductory male Seiyuu artists that everyone should check, especially if they are starting out. If you are already a fan and you may be thinking, well, I already know all of these, well, I hope still that the episode was enjoyable for you to listen to. In the next 2 episodes, I'm going to bring a couple of other artists you may already suspect at least who is going to be in 2 episodes from this one, because in the next episode we are going to go towards a pop rock, acoustic rock sound in terms of Seiyuu artists. And by the 3rd episode in this mini-series, we are going to cover the really complex ones, the ones that write their own lyrics and they are all about complex concepts. So that's a bit different, and those artists, you may already know who they are. I've already mentioned them in this episode if you paid close attention. I'm always slipping in some extra bits of information for you to actually unravel. But yeah, if you enjoyed this episode, really let me know in the comments. And if you have any songs that you would like to suggest from any of these artists to new fans of them or new fans of Seiyuu music in general, please leave those suggestions in the comments below. People may check the comments and they may find new music or music that you fully recommend them to check, and they may also fall in love with that music. That's everything from me in this episode. So do let me know which songs you would recommend from each artist or your favorite artist out of these 3 that I mentioned, Mamoru Miyano, Yuma, Uchida, and Shouta Aoi. And I'll see you guys in the next episode, of course. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to review it if you are on a streaming platform, or leave a like, or if it is your very first time in this channel, to subscribe to this channel, because it helps a lot to get more visibility to the content that I'm creating. So thank you very much for watching this episode, and I'll see you guys in the next one.